guy was talking to me a little bit about Jesus, and I'm like, absolutely, are you keeping the 10 Commandments? And he says, yep. And I said, are you keeping the fourth one? and he's like, well, Jesus, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to encourage you that, yes, they met on the first day of the week because they were still meeting after the seventh day, and, just focus on that. But I have this tendency to want to start with saying why the Sabbath is so important when I'm trying to get people who are in the church into Torah. And I've never been successful. I mean, I'm very gentle with it. It's like, okay, well, let's look at this. And there's always this resistance. And so I look at, the Torah portions are so in line with what's going on today all year. It's like, you read the Torah portion, it's like, oh, that was in the news today, But so I'm just saying, how do you recommend the first step? Just getting people just to acknowledge that seal of the Sabbath. I personally feel it's super important, but I don't know how to break through.
My experience is that it's hard to get people to see that when they do not see themselves as being part of this family called Israel. Because their first response or their first rejection of that is going to be based on, well, that's for the Jews. That's for Israel. That's not for us. So it's always been my approach to not even fool with the Sabbath or food or this or that. It's always about the identity issue. Who are you? What does it mean to be in Christ? What does it mean to be in Messiah? Because until you can get people to see that they have been grafted into and have become part of this family Israel, it's going to be very hard to convince them of all the things that they see that God has given Israel to do, because they don't see themselves as part of that. So my advice would be to hone your skill in presenting that argument as to who you are, what it means to be part of this body. What is your identity? You're grafted into this tree. What does that mean? What does that tree represent? When Paul talks about you're no longer foreigners and strangers, but are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, what does that mean? So that's what I would do. Look, study those verses. Look at John chapter 11, Ephesians 2, Romans 11. There's others as well. But because when you can get people to see, through Yeshua, I'm part of this family called Israel. And then when they begin to see themselves as being part of Israel, then the light begins to go on, and well, if I'm part of Israel, then I'm supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to do that. So that would be my approach. So, don't just fly into it, willy-nilly, but search those scriptures out yourself. Have a good, grounded understanding of what those verses and those scriptures and that concept's all about, because it needs to come from your heart too. It doesn't just need to come from here. It really needs to pour. People can tell the difference when you're reciting things and when you're pouring out your heart to them.